eTown Hall in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains. It's eTown, with part 2 of our show featuring Colorado-based singer and songwriter Trevor Hall, and from Taos, New Mexico and Los Angeles, Max Gomez. Plus, we'll hear from the eTown archives with Earth Day co-founder Denis Hayes. I'm Helen Forster. Here comes our host, Nick Forster.
Thanks, Helen. Welcome, everybody, to eTown Hall. This is part 2 of the show we recorded back in April on Earth Day, which was also our 34th anniversary. It was a good one. The show ran long, and we decided to share the whole thing with you. So we divided it up into 2 parts. We had 2 strong musical guests, Trevor Hall and Max Gomez. And because it was Earth Day, we decided to dig into the eTown archives and revisit 2 interviews I'd had with the co-founders of Earth Day at different times. One was the late Senator Gaylord Nelson, and the other was Denis Hayes. So this week, part 2, we've got my chat with Denis Hayes and both of our musical guests playing some more songs. Trevor Hall will be up after we hear from Denis. And we're going to start out with the pride of Taos, New Mexico, Max Gomez. Max has been living in LA for a while, but he's deeply connected to Taos still. In fact, we're eventually going to feature a song of his about how New Mexico is neither new nor is it Mexico, something he has to clarify from time to time. Max is a really good singer, guitar player, funny on stage, charming, entertaining. Please welcome back to the stage here at eTown Hall, Max Gomez.
This is a song that is the title track of a new album that I'm putting out this summer. It's a song that I carried around half written in my back pocket for a handful of years, and I was trying to show it to some of my songwriter friends to see if someone would write it with me. I just thought that would be a nice thing to do. And one day I found myself with a co-writing session with someone that I've long looked up to, an old cowboy named Michael Martin Murphey. And so I brought this tune out because I was really nervous, and I knew the song was good, you know. And Murph helped me make quick work of the last couple verses on here, which is kind of I'll just be honest, it's kind of a feather in my cap to have this cool song that I wrote with one of my musical heroes, Michael Murphey, you know. I'm going to the top of a memory mountain. All of my childhood dreams are gonna be there, like that shiny new guitar and beat up rusted car. They were both gonna take me far away, but that beat up car ain't turned the wheel in a long time. And the songs I play on that guitar have the wrong rhyme. But when I reach the timberline on the high side of my mind, that engine will be running like a dream. And the songs I play on that guitar will say just what I need. When I reach the top of Memory Mountain, all of your favorite times are gonna be there, like that song that made you smile. You were happy for a while. 2 runaways in that old beat-up car. But the wheels of love ain't turned around in a long time. And the songs I sing for you still got the wrong right. When I reach the timberline on the high side of my mind, the wheels of love will spin and take us far. We'll be riding close together underneath the morning star. So take my hand, let's both stand on Memory Mountain. I know all our broken dreams are gonna be there. All the good times and the bad, the foolish hearts we'd had, well, they'll fit right back together like a dream. We'll be riding to the right place at the right time. And the songs I'll write for you, they'll have the right rhyme. And we'll reach the timberlines on the high sides of our minds, and we'll know exactly how to right the wrong. We'll be riding along together, singing old familiar songs. So don't let me go alone to Memory Mountain. Thank you, Nick. Thank you very much.
Max Gomez, welcome back to eTown. Good to hear you play and sing.
Thank you
love
very
your
much.
songs, love your songwriting and your singing. It's so cool.
It's always great to be here.
That
Thank
is, I know that early on, Sean Mullins was somebody who gave you a big leg up and a boost and was really kind of a big promoter for you. And you've also opened for a ton of people. You've been in co-bills with a lot of people, including some unlikely ones like Jeff Beck and people like that.
Yeah.
Anybody sort of taking a shine to you these days and helping you chart your course through your musical journey?
Yeah, I opened a show for Chris Isaac a while back. It was like a smashing success, and I'd like to think I had something to do with it. Just sort of warming up the show, and we had a great night, and I think the promoter like doubled everybody's pay, and we all celebrated. And anyway, Chris lives in Nashville, and I've got it on my list, my short list, to get together and maybe try our hand at penning a tune and that sort of thing. And
that's cool.
And Tommy James and the Shondells, another unexpected bill.
Yeah, totally out of left field. Yeah.
But Tommy and the guys are cool as can be, and Tommy invited me to come to New York and work in the studio sometime. So, Joe Ely and I are working, trying to come up with we're gonna half write a song, a rock and roll song, and we're gonna take it to Tommy and we'll finish it with him. So
cool.
That's on the short list of things to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, it seems like you're a guy, I don't know if you know this reference, but there was a Peter Sellers movie called Being There, where the character Chauncey Gardner was just this guy who didn't actually do anything or say anything, and everybody was so completely charmed by him, they just opened every door. And suddenly...
that's kind of what I'm going for.
Yeah. Just be the strong, silent type and then see where it takes you. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I love that. I mean, I do have to say that in this anxious moment that we find ourselves in, there's a lesson there about being calm and open and keeping your eyes open and looking out for friends and folks that can open a door or have some fun with. I think that's admirable. I'm going to try to aim in that direction if I can.
Yeah, I mean, I really, more or less, am an independent traveling musician, and so anywhere I can get a hand up, I have to pay attention to that.
Yeah.
But speaking of which, just a couple of bucks really give me pride. Just to get the hotel covered.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's what happens when you're a little bit older than I'm not quite the mentor, but I am. I can offer a hand up. Yeah. I know you're doing a river trip where you're taking people down. What is it called? Rio Champa.
The Rio Chama.
Chama, yeah.
In northern New Mexico, starts in Chama, New Mexico, and ends in Abiquiu, which is, of course, the most difficult town to spell in America. But where Georgia O'Keeffe was so inspired by Pedernal and those sandy mountains and such. Yeah. It's a beautiful trip. We do a couple of them in August. You can catch us on those river trips, and then we sort of entertain campfire style around dinner and such. It's really nice.
That sounds cool. And that's in August. Do you have a website?
MaxGomezmusic.com.
Okay. All right. Well, Max, I'm happy you're here. There's so much more music to play. Let's get back to it, but thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Nick. When I was a younger man, riding in my daddy's car, he'd play the radio. We'd never go too far. He'd sing a melody, one that was soft and true, that brought back a memory that leads me straight to you. Roses on the moon, static on the radio, midnight flowers bloom. Well, you thought they'd never grow, and I'd be a fool to leave her high and dry, 'cause above the atmosphere I see a silver sky. Looking back, I thought it through. Well, some boys say to let it go. I say them boys, they'll never know. Not just how it feels to be always in second place, and then come around the bend to finally win the race. Roses on the moon, static on the radio, midnight flowers bloom. Well, you thought they'd never grow, and I'd be a fool to leave her high and dry, 'cause above the atmosphere I see a silver sky. Star when you're standing on the ground. I tell you, friends, voices on the moon, static on the radio, midnight flowers bloom where you thought they'd never grow. Yeah, and I'd be a fool to leave her high and dry, 'cause above that atmosphere I see a silver sky. Oh, above that atmosphere I see a silver sky. Thank you.
That's Max Gomez along with the eTones, Adam Bodine, Christian Teal, Zach Jackson on the bass, Helen Forster singing backup. Max Gomez from down in New Mexico.
Your visit to eTown is made possible in part by the Sage Foundation and by the tens of thousands of folks who have subscribed to our YouTube channel. Now, you don't have to subscribe, by the way, to view the thousands of videos that we already have up there. But if you do, you can stay up to date with our latest video offerings. You're listening to eTown.
I'm Nick Forster. You are listening to part 2 of our anniversary show that we recorded back in April on Earth Day. Trevor Hall is going to be out to play some more songs in a bit, but first, because of the Earth Day timing, we dove into the vast eTown archives, and we found my conversation with one of the co-founders of Earth Day, Denis Hayes. He and I got together back in 2012. You may know that Denis and Gaylord Nelson, Senator Gaylord Nelson, they were the ones responsible for creating the first Earth Day back in 1970. And that was noble work. We think of things around us as having just always been there, but everything has a starting place. And these guys birthed it, Earth Day. So let's go back to the stage and hear my conversation with the co-founder of Earth Day, Denis Hayes, from 2012. You were at Harvard at the Kennedy School when you read about or were in contact with the Senator Gaylord Nelson, who was initiating this effort on behalf of this concept, Earth Day. Is that right?
Yes. Senator Nelson had watched teach-ins being used to mobilize people around civil rights and against the war in Vietnam, and thought that college-based teach-ins might work to get some attention for the environment, which really had very little currency then. I jumped into it with all the arrogance of youth. I read about it in the New York Times and flew down to Washington thinking that I would maybe organize Harvard. And I went back with the charter to organize Boston and got a call 2 days later asking if I'd come down and organize the United States, which has got to be the fastest set of promotions I've ever had.
That's amazing. And what an event. I mean, that first Earth Day, just in New York City, where the Central Park, 1 million people or whatever they thought were there, and around the world, 20 million people. Walter Cronkite and Paul Newman, an hour in prime time, and all this stuff. It's a huge, huge event.
And one thing that's worth remembering in these enormously divisive times now when things have become so wildly polarized around the environment, that New York event was made possible really by the very strong cooperation of Mayor John Lindsay.
That's right.
Who was a Republican fighting with Richard Nixon, who had a Southern strategy to make the party far more conservative, and Lindsay and Nelson Rockefeller, and interestingly, Mitt Romney's father were trying to pull it back the other direction.
Yeah. And Mayor Lindsay agreed to close down Fifth Avenue for you.
That's right. Which meant we started with about 200,000 people before we even did any organizing. It was a great leg up.
What an amazing time. And of course, good things followed. You know, that first Earth Day in some ways set the stage for the passage of the Clean Air Act and the Clean Water Act and all the Endangered Species Act and other things that, as you say, there wasn't much currency for that kind of thinking at that time, right?
That's right. It was a combination. Earth Day really introduced a new vocabulary and this new sense of values to people. But the politicians who went back to their districts to give Earth Day speeches basically had thought of it as kind of a walk in the park with some politicized hippies out on the West Coast and maybe some student radicals. But it was going to be a fad. And then that autumn, we launched what we called the Dirty Dozen campaign. These were all people with horrible environmental records who were in vulnerable districts in which there was an environmental issue that could mobilize people until 4 or 5, 6% over. So we targeted them very carefully. Went after the first one. It was the chairman of the House Public Works Committee, which is to say the chairman of the Pork Committee. And we defeated Fallon in a primary. One result of that, I think, is that a Clean Air Act that would have been inconceivable in 1969 passed with no dissenting votes in either chamber in 1970.
Now, your early efforts and interest in solar energy also produced some really big results early on, with support from Jimmy Carter, President Carter, and also from Colorado Governor Dick Lamb.
Jimmy Carter was genuinely of the belief that we had to get ourselves off Middle Eastern oil and onto domestic resources, and he wanted to do as much as he could, and in the end, we were able to convince him that he could do a lot. We were given a couple $1 million, which back then was still real money, in a year to pull in the sharpest people we could find in the national laboratories and in prestigious research universities to figure out how much you could get from renewables by 2020. And we punched it up, and ultimately, with a bunch of investments in efficiency, the percentage would be of a much smaller number. We came up with 28% and a fairly rigorous way to get there. We couldn't sell him on quite that amount, but he was okay signing off on 20% of the nation's energy from renewables. Did I say 2020? 20% by the year 2000.
Oh, wow.
And the missing element, of course, is that there were about 60 specific programs that were supposed to be adopted, and what happened in between was Ronald Reagan. Not a single one of those recommendations was ever followed.
Mm-hmm. And funding was cut.
Yeah, we had a $130 million budget. It was cut by $100 million.
Right. I think it's puzzling, and I think a lot of our listeners are puzzled, frankly, by the fact that renewable energy, producing domestic energy in the United States, the efforts to be more energy efficient and to be more productive and to lessen our dependence on foreign oil. I think there are a lot of listeners and a lot of people around the country who are puzzled as to why that's a political issue.
Yeah.
Why do you think it is?
I'm as puzzled as your listeners are. I mean, as you've shown here with what is almost certainly the greenest theater in the entire world, we can go out and do it ourselves. Right now we're going to have to pay a little bit of a premium here and there, but we can build absolutely energy self-sufficiency into buildings, into neighborhoods, into communities, and into states.
Yeah, that's exciting, yeah. That's Denis Hayes, co-founder of Earth Day, along with Senator Gaylord Nelson. Big stuff. We are going to hear from Max Gomez at the end of the show, but right now, let's get back to music with a really popular and interesting singer and songwriter. He recently relocated to Colorado with his family. As a young person, he was a surfer. He was inspired by Jack Johnson and Ben Harper and people like that. But he has really created his own musical scene. He's usually playing substantially larger venues like Red Rocks. And we're especially happy to have him with us this week. Please welcome to eTown for his first visit, Trevor Hall.
Thanks so much for having us.
Everything passing and changing. I can see memories fading. This I have been contemplating. Oh no. All of these patterns of weather, nothing is lasting forever. Walking the path of surrender. So I have been patiently seeking the heart that is openly beating, where all of those rivers are meeting. Oh no. I have the faith that I'm guided. All of the omens aligning. Mother divine and her timing. Oh no. So watch it come now and watch it go. Don't you hold on to the high and low. The spirit dancing on the unknown. Let it move your soul. What lies ahead now? What lies behind? Put all that worry out of your mind. Look in your own home. What will you find? Let it move your soul. Thank you.
Welcome
Thank
to
you
eTown.
so much.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
cool. Glad this worked
Thank
out.
you.
When you were a teenager, as I understand it, you ended up moving away from your parents in South Carolina to a kind of a hippie creative arts boarding school in Southern California to work on your talents and expand your opportunities, I guess, to share those talents. And am I right that at that same time you were also experimenting and learning some Eastern religion and meditation and developing a bit of a spiritual practice too?
Oh yeah, my parents were freaking out, basically. Like when I look back on it now, I'm like, yo, I gave you guys a lot to deal with. But no, they send their kid, to California to this boarding art school, and I think I had a mohawk for my junior year, and then I told them I wanted to live in this ashram. That was really cool. But it was an incredible experience.
Yeah.
And
Did you go? You went to India.
I did many
Yeah.
times,
Yeah.
yeah. When I was living in LA, I had no friends. I would drive down to this temple, and I used to go down there all the time because it was a beautiful community, and they would feed me. That's how they get you. They give you, they give you food. Before you know it, you're in. And but it was the family that I needed away from my own
Yeah.
family. And they go to India every year, and that's kind of how I hopped on that
Yeah.
train. And then that really greatly, consequently, opened itself up in my music.
I'm trying to imagine teenage you wandering through India because I suspect you found your own places and regions and
Yeah.
parts of India that resonated in particular for you, which I've never been to in India, so I don't know what that experience might have been like, but
It was wild, I mean, it was this mixed feeling of landing and coming off the plane and wanting to get back on the plane, but also being I feel something, so
Yeah.
familiar in my heart, and just kind of following that, and have just kind of continued to follow it,
you still have a relationship, as I understand it, with an ashram in India that
Yeah.
you and your wife support, right?
Yeah, so going over there my first time, I went to my teacher's ashram, and his teacher takes care of all these underprivileged orphan children, or even just families that want to give their children a classical Indian education of yoga, of meditation. This was a very ancient system. They called it a gurukul. And in the ancient days, in your village, wherever the gurukul was, parents would send their children to live in the gurukul for a set number of times so they could learn these things. But of course now,
Sort of
it's
like a
being
hippie
lost.
arts boarding school,
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was it. Yeah.
India style.
And so anyhow, the monk that takes care of all these kids, he's a monk. He has no income. So I fell in love with these kids my first year. And ever since then, we just started putting a basket out at shows, just saying, donations, literally cardboard box. And then over the years, it's just been beautiful to see where it's gone.
Yeah.
And it's really special. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's cool. Is that a public thing, Trevor? In other words, if somebody listening wants to help support you in that effort, can they find stuff on your website or other places
It's
if they
really
want to join in?
grassroots.
Yeah.
I mean, we basically, set up an account for the guru there, and we just deposit money as we get it. I don't
Yeah.
know if that's legal, but that's what we do. Because there's a lot of hoops to jump through, and that's just how it's always
Yeah.
been. So
Cool.
if you want to support it, you can just Venmo me.
Yeah. There's a lot of trust in this spiritual community. A lot of trust involved. Surrender.
We figured it out.
Starts with the food. Then you're hooked. Yeah. Well, we got more songs to get to, but congrats! It just sounds like you've discovered also something that a lot of musicians and a lot of creative people have a hard time finding, which is that balance between home life, family life, especially in a situation like yours where your partner is also a creative person who's an author and a photographer and a poet.
I feel blessed to be a creative. I feel blessed to have married a creative and to have been on this journey so long,
Yeah.
So it's really something.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and we're glad it included a stop at this
yeah.
point in at eTown Hall.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's get back to music. Welcome back, Trevor Hall, along with Jeff Martin.
This is a song about the ongoing journey of mental health and the mental journey and this human experience, that we find ourselves in. And I think growing up and being a, sensitive kid, emotional kid in an environment that didn't really kind of tell me what was going on or gave me the tools or helped me navigate, my inner world, I always felt kind of these feelings were bad, and I think on my journey, sometimes when I'm feeling anxious or depressed or these waves come upon me, my first reaction is to, I can't be feeling this because this is a weak feeling, right? This is a low feeling. Strong people don't feel anxious. Strong people don't feel blah, 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 yap, 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 shut up, And so as a result of that, I think my first reaction was like just to push it away, just to cut it off, just get rid of it. And of course, when we push those things, they push back 10 times harder. And I was with a mentor of mine in India, and he looked at me one day with this big smile and he said, "I don't cut any branches from my tree," And that really just kind of shifted my perspective on things and helped me not judge all these things that were coming up inside me, rather just kind of just being with them and just witnessing them and loving them, and understanding that the highs, the lows, everything in between, it's all grist for the mill, and everything is everything, and everything is a part of everything, and our joy is a part of our sorrow is a part of our joy, and just thinking about the cycle of things. So that's kind of what this song is about. And great storm clouds.
Up and down it goes like a great wave across my own home. All the questions of the mind, trying to find a way to show that I got darkness, I got light, I got everything in between. Don't deny any side, I don't cut branches off my tree. Great storm clouds holding rain, it's part of nature to hold a bit of pain. All in all, that rain falls and then we watch a new thing grow. Watch a new thing grow. Feelings coming, feelings leaving, that is just the way it goes. How to surrender to the mystery I often never know. the tears are just a part of the romance. Great storm clouds holding rain. It's part of nature to hold a bit of pain. All in all, that rain falls and then we watch a new thing grow. Great storm clouds holding rain. It's part of nature. Hold a bit of pain. All in all, that rain falls and then we watch a new thing grow. 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 Hey, hey, ah. Hey, hey, ah. Hey, hey, ah. Hey, hey, ah. Hey, hey,
Thank you so much.
Trevor Hall, along with Jeff Martin, playing the bass, keyboards, percussion. The latest CD is called Threads. It's a 4-song EP. Trevor Hall.
Your visit to eTown is made possible in part by the Scientific and Cultural Facilities District, or SCFD, one of the largest cultural funding mechanisms in the United States, supporting nearly 300 organizations in the greater Denver, Colorado area. You're listening to eTown.
I'm Nick Forster. You are listening to eTown, our two-part Earth Day special. We're wrapping it up pretty soon. I know it's a little odd to be in June and talking about Earth Day back in April, but in a way it seems quaint given what's going on in the world to talk about Earth Day at all. But I love the fact that a broad-minded public servant, Senator Gaylord Nelson, decided to raise awareness around the health of the planet by creating a global event out of thin air with the help of Denis Hayes. Politics for the common good. It was a good thing they did, and we're happy about it. We have got a little more music from Max Gomez, and then we'll bring Trevor Hall back for the finale. Please welcome back to the stage here at eTown Hall, Max Gomez.
So, as you know, I'm from northern New Mexico. I'm a native New Mexican, you might say. And I travel around, and folks will always ask similar questions. Where are you coming from? Where are you going? Where are you from? And I always say the same things, you know. I always answer that one. Well, I'm from New Mexico. You might be surprised how often, you know, here in the States that answer is met with confusion. And people say funny things to me like, really? You're from New Mexico? I say, yeah. And they go, well, you speak really good English. So it kind of inspired this song a little bit, and really this song is a protest song, and I'm protesting against our fellow Americans who often seem to be unaware that my home state, the great state of New Mexico, is in fact one of the 50 that makes up our nation. Well, in a barren but beautiful desert, my pony up and died. I found my way to an old highway and put my thumb out for a ride. A team of crazed coyotes stopped and offered me a ride. They said, what do you know about New Mexico? And I looked to them and cried. It ain't new, and it ain't Mexico. Some things you ought to know. 1 and 1 is 2. Skies where the four winds blow. Corazón es contento. Some things you ought to know, like New Mexico. You know the trunk was filled with chili, headed west on I-40. Destination headquarters, one-man Trader Joe. The deal was on the table for an insufficient sum. When the buyer said, he had the nerve to ask, where the hell's this chili from? We said, it ain't new, it ain't Mexico. All right, some things you ought to know. 1 and 1 is 2. Skies where the four winds blow. Corazón es contento. Some things you ought to know, like New Mexico. That's my big guitar solo of the night. Eat your heart out, Nick Ford. Well, in this last verse, tonight this will be the last verse here. And in this last verse, I mean you no disrespect in case you happen to be from Kansas or Kansas City, Missouri, or in case you worked for the TSA. It's a true story, happened to me when I was younger. It goes like this. One time at the Kansas City airport, they asked me for ID, so I showed my driver's license to this gal at security. She said, although you speak good English, I cannot let you through, because for international travelers, only passports will do. I said, it ain't you, it ain't Mexico, that's right. Some things you ought to know. 1 and 1 is 2. Skies where the four winds blow. Corazón is contento. Some things you ought to know, like New Mexico. Yeah, no passports to show in New Mexico. USA.
That's Max Gomez along with the eTones, Adam Bodine, Christian Teal, Zach Jackson on the bass, Helen Forster singing backup, Max Gomez. We've got time for one more song. I want to thank all our guests. I want to thank everybody for being a part of this great show this week. Thanks to Trevor Hall and Jeff Martin doing such a great job. Thanks to the eTones. These are the hardworking house band. Thanks to Helen Forster. It was so good to hear Denis Hayes, my chat from Denis back in 2012, co-founder of Earth Day. Thanks to Max Gomez. We have one more song, and it's a sing-along. I'm Nick Forster. Hope you can be with us next week right here in eTown.
There's something happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there telling me I've got to beware. Come on, y'all. Stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down.
Battle lines being drawn. Nobody's right if everybody's wrong. Young people speaking their minds, getting so much resistance from behind. I think it's time we stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down.
Day for the heat. 1,000 people in the street, singing songs and carrying signs. Mostly say hooray from outside. We better stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down.
time strikes deep into your life, it will creep. Starts when you're always afraid. Step out of line and the men come and take you away. Think it's time to stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. Stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. It's time to stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. Stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. Stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down.
This is a production of eTown.